I want you to think about how many devices in your home are never actually fully off. Your smart TV, your streaming box, your smart speaker sitting quietly on a shelf. Most of what we call off in a modern home is really just a low-power standby state, a device waiting, listening in some limited way for a signal to wake back up. We don't think about that distinction most of the time. Off is off as far as our daily lives are concerned. I want to tell you about the night I learned that distinction mattered considerably more than I had ever considered. My name doesn't matter for this story. What matters is that I am a 41-year-old man living with my wife and our 12-year-old son in a house just outside Portland, Oregon. We had a smart TV mounted in our living room, connected to our home Wi-Fi, the kind of ordinary modern television that exists in millions of homes exactly like ours. This is the story of the night that television turned itself on at 3 in the morning and what it started playing. I woke up at 3:07 in the morning to a sound I could not immediately place. A faint, tinny audio, muffled by walls and distance, coming from somewhere downstairs. My first assumption, still half asleep, was that my son had gotten up to watch something and forgotten to use headphones. It would not have been the first time. I lay there for a moment, annoyed in the specific, low-grade way you're annoyed at 3 in the morning, debating whether it was worth getting up to deal with it, or whether it would resolve itself if I simply waited. It did not resolve itself. If anything, the sound seemed to continue at a steady volume, neither increasing nor decreasing, the specific consistency of something running on its own, rather than being actively controlled by a person who might eventually get bored and turn it off. I got up. I checked my son's room first, as a matter of habit more than genuine suspicion, and found him fully asleep, exactly where he should be, completely unaware of any sound coming from downstairs. I stood in that hallway for a moment, the sound now clearly identifiable as coming from the living room, from the television we always made sure to turn off before bed. I walked down the stairs slowly, the specific slowness of someone who is not entirely sure they want to see what's waiting at the bottom. The television was on, fully on, screen bright, volume at a level neither my wife nor I ever left it at overnight, loud enough to be genuinely audible from an upstairs bedroom through a closed door. I stood in the doorway of my own living room for a long moment before I let myself actually look at what was playing. It was not a children's show my son had left paused. It was not a streaming service's default screensaver, the ambient nature footage that plays when nothing else has been selected. It was a video, some kind of recorded footage, grainy, dimly lit, showing what appeared to be the interior of a room I did not recognize. I remember standing there in my own living room at 3 in the morning, feeling a very specific, very cold confusion settle over me, the sense of looking at something that made no logical sense in the context of my own quiet, unremarkable home. I stepped closer, and it was only then that I understood what I was actually looking at. It was not a video I had ever seen before, and it was not, as far as I could tell, any commercially available piece of content. It appeared to be raw, unedited footage, the specific low quality and awkward framing of a security camera or a webcam, rather than anything professionally produced. The footage showed a dimly lit room, empty of people, the angle suggesting the camera was mounted somewhere near ceiling height, looking down across what might have been a bedroom or a home office. I picked up the remote, hands not entirely steady, and tried to exit out of whatever application was playing it. The remote did not respond. I tried the physical power button on the television itself. The screen went dark for a moment, and then, within seconds, turned itself back on, the same footage resuming from a point slightly further along in its loop than where I had left it. I want you to sit with that detail the way I had to sit with it, standing there in my dark living room at 3 in the morning. I had turned off the television. It had turned itself back on its own, and resumed the exact same unfamiliar footage. I unplugged it from the wall. That at least worked. The screen went fully dark and stayed dark, the small standby light beneath it going out along with everything else. I stood there in the sudden darkness for a long moment, my heart rate considerably higher than it had been 10 minutes earlier, trying to process what I had just watched a piece of technology in my own home do without my permission. I woke my wife up. I did not think twice about it despite the hour. I needed another person in that house awake and aware of what was happening, and I needed, honestly, simply not to be the only one who had seen it. We sat together at the kitchen table for the next hour, the television unplugged in the next room, going through every possible explanation we could think of. A software glitch seemed almost plausible until we considered the remote not responding and the television turning itself back on after being manually powered off, behavior that felt considerably more deliberate than a simple malfunction. I checked our home Wi-Fi router's connected device list, the way I had read about people doing in similar situations, and found alongside our own known devices a device name I did not recognize, connected steadily to our network. The unfamiliar device was connected under a generic manufacturer name that meant nothing to either of us at first glance, but a quick search of that manufacturer code linked it to a category of low-cost network-connected devices, commonly used for home automation and remote camera access, the kind of hardware that, if installed with malicious intent, could be used to both access another device on the same network and inject content directly into it. We did not sleep the rest of that night. In the morning, I called a local IT security consultant a coworker had used previously for a small business network issue, and he came out that same afternoon. He confirmed, after about 2 hours of examining our router and our television's own network logs, that our home network's administrative settings had been accessed remotely at some point over the preceding several weeks, not through some sophisticated, unexplainable method, but through what he described as a disappointingly common vulnerability, a default router password that had never been changed since the equipment was installed by our internet provider nearly 3 years earlier. Someone, at some point during those 3 years, had apparently found or guessed that default router password, gained access to our home network's administrative controls, and used that access to both monitor certain connected devices and, apparently, to remotely push content directly to our television, whether as a test of the access itself or as something more deliberately intended to frighten us, the consultant could not say with certainty. We filed a report with local police, though the officer who took it was honest that cases involving home network intrusion were considerably harder to investigate and prosecute than more traditional break-ins, given the difficulty of definitively tracing remote access back to a specific individual without extensive digital forensics that exceeded what local departments could typically undertake on their own. He did tell us, however, that we were not the first household in our general area to report something similar over the preceding year. Unexplained smart device behavior, unfamiliar devices appearing on home networks, in at least 2 other cases involving smart televisions specifically, behaving in ways their owners could not explain. Whether those cases were connected to whatever had happened in our own home was never established with certainty. The IT consultant we hired helped us fully reset our network, change every password to something considerably more secure, disable remote administrative access entirely, and set up a system that would alert us immediately if any unfamiliar device attempted to connect in the future. I will not pretend we ever got a fully satisfying answer to who had done this, or why, or what specifically that footage had shown, or where it had originated from. What I know is that whoever it was had quiet, ongoing access to our home network for what may have been years before that night, and that the television turning itself on at 3 in the morning may simply have been the first time that access became visible enough for us to notice it at all. If you take one thing from this story, I want it to be this. Most of us set up our home Wi-Fi once, accept whatever default password came with the equipment, and never think about it again for years, sometimes for the entire time we own the device. That single small oversight is, as I learned, considerably more consequential than it feels in the moment of simply wanting your internet to work. Change the default administrative password on your home router if you have never done so tonight. Not your Wi-Fi password that guests use to connect, the separate administrative password that controls the router's actual settings, which is very often left at whatever generic default the manufacturer assigned it. Check your router's connected device list periodically, the same way you might check your bank statement, looking for anything you cannot immediately identify as belonging to you or someone in your household. And if any smart device in your home, a television, a speaker, a camera, ever does something you did not command it to, do not assume it is a harmless glitch. Unplug it, check your network, and take the possibility of unauthorized access seriously before you talk yourself out of it, the way I very nearly did that first sleepy, confused minute standing at the top of my own stairs. Our devices are not fully off nearly as often as we assume. Neither, it turns out, is the access someone else might have to them.